There's one question I get asked the most by those that are in their 20s and their 30s, and that is, how do I become financially free by the time that I am 60? In this episode, I'm going to break down for you the 6 ways, step by step, how you can do that. And the fascinating thing about this is, even though it's specifically for those of you guys that's in your 20s and in your 30s, these principles that I'm going to give you is appropriate even if you are a little bit older. Let's dive into it. My name is Jamil Frazier. I'm the founder of Think Life is Different. And I went from 0 to 7 figures in 5.5 years. Probably went to multiple 7 figures in about 7-year time period, and then scaled even above that. So I am fully qualified to speak on this subject and to help you. Let's dive into it. Number one is make a decision. And when I think about making a decision, I think one of the things that's probably, when I think back to my 20s and my 30s, is I did not make a decision to be rich. I didn't make a decision to be wealthy. I didn't make a decision to be different. And making a decision is the foundational piece for building wealth. You don't just fall into being a millionaire. In fact, most millionaires are first-time millionaires, and they're not gifted this money, and this money isn't passed on to them through some sort of inheritance. These are people that just through sweat equity and through good decision making has built their portfolios and their lives into becoming millionaires. So because it's not something that you just fall into, you have to plan to be rich. You have to plan to be financially free. You have to plan to be wealthy, and that comes down to making a very clear decision where this thing is going to be more important to you than a lot of the other things that are going to be thrown in your way right now. This decision to be financially free is the foundation for how this is going to happen. Number two is you have to get to a place to where you love yourself enough that you're never, ever, ever going to give your money away to somebody else before you give it to yourself. So number 2 is you got to learn to pay yourself. When I think back into my 20s and my 30s, unfortunately, I had more, I would say I have more desire to satisfy other people and other entities than I did to satisfy my own self. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is, you do a very good job of bringing in money, and probably you're trading some time for money right now, wouldn't you say? So when you get that paycheck, what typically happens is you start paying your credit cards, you start paying your car note, you start paying your rent or your mortgage, you start paying activities for kids, you start paying your utilities, you start paying as soon as you get that money, you start paying everybody else. And then you say, whatever is left over, I'm actually going to try to save, or I'm going to try to invest. The problem with that is you're showing more love and more respect and more honor to Visa and MasterCard and American Express and your utility company and the bank and to Toyota and BMW and Lexus and all them than you're actually showing to yourself. I want you to love yourself so much that when you get money, you say, listen, this money is mine. A portion of this belongs to me. And so I want at least 10% of this income to go into a savings account and another 10% to go into an investment account. And then everything after those two things happen, everything else, you can pay those people, but never ever again in your life pay other people before you pay yourself. Number 3 is pay off debt. I'm always fascinated by how many and how much debt people that are in their 20s and their 30s have already accumulated, whether that be student loans, whether that be car notes, whether that be timeshares, whether that be credit cards, but the debt is piling up. And you're either going to have debt compound for you in a negative way, or you're going to have investments compound for you in a positive way. And unfortunately, right now, you're probably paying a ton of debt. So we have to get hyper focused on paying down that debt. How did I do it? The portion of my income I always paid myself in savings, and the portion that I was paying myself in investments, I just took that and I combined that with the minimum payments that I'm making on all this debt, and I got hyper focused on paying down this debt. Now it took 2 years, 2 years of just not caring about anything else except for getting clear of this debt. I didn't care about the new cars that were coming out. I didn't care about the new wardrobe. I didn't care about the new shoes. I didn't care about none of that stuff. The only thing I was focused on was getting rid of this debt. Why? Because once this debt is gone, I can stop paying the lenders and then I can become the lender. This is how you become financially free. Let's go into number 4. Number 4 is, now that you've finished off paying off this debt, you got a big chunk of money that's there. And this big chunk of money that you're used to paying to the credit card companies, to your car note, to all this stuff, you're going to take that. And number 4 is go buy a piece of real estate. Now, what I would do in my 20s and 30s is I would buy a duplex, I would buy a quadruplex, or I would buy some sort of apartment building. And I would live in one of those units, and I would have these tenants start paying down my mortgage, my taxes, and my insurance. And if you're thinking like, I'm not capable of doing that, or I'm going to live in a poor neighborhood, or I'm going to live somewhere where I don't want to live, or I'm going to live too far away from my parents or my in-laws or whatever, the only thing that I could tell you right now is like, you're not that serious about building wealth. You're more focused on making excuses than you are doing what it takes to actually start building wealth. This is what it takes. It's going to take a season of inconvenience until you no longer have to be inconvenienced. When I bought my first property, I thought my season was going to be 2 years. I said, I'm not living into this dang house for more than 2 years. And then we're bouncing and we're going somewhere else. It took 5 years. Truth of the matter is, it took 5 years, but it was time for us to move from that place. I had a piece of real estate, and then we moved into the next place, which was the $2 million place. And when we're moving into the next place, people are always asking, like, do you need to sell your first place? And I was like, hell no, we're not selling the first place. That first place was the foundational piece of the portfolio, and it's going to be your foundational piece too. So if you got to make some sacrifices, that's just what we got to do. You need to inconvenience yourself for a little bit of time, for a season, so that you can have seasons of freedom. Number 5 is we got to raise our income. And let me just tell you right now is making more money is not a problem. The problem is you don't know how to make more money. Let me just say this again. Making more money is not a problem. The problem is you haven't learned how to make more. Anybody that's listening to my voice right now can make more money. How do you know? Just look around you. If somebody over there is making more than you, then it's possible to make more. If someone's over there is making more than you, then it's possible for you to make more. The biggest problem is right now is you haven't built the skill sets to become more valuable to the marketplace so that the marketplace can pay you more. Like a lot of times what we do is we'll like wait, or we're not intentional enough to build skill sets. So for example, it's like, when's the last time you went into a year and you were like, specifically this year, I'm going to get much, much better at X. What is that? Like, have you gotten better with your ability to sell? Have you gotten better skill sets with your ability to market? Have you become a better editor? Have you become a better people person? Have you learned to develop a better handshake? Have you learned to walk into your job with a smile instead of a frown? Have you learned to bring solutions to people's problems, especially those that are that oversee what you do, right? Like, if you're working for someone, have you stepped into that organization and said, you know what, man, like I've really been thinking about how we can scale this revenue by at least 2x's revenue. And I would love to have a conversation with management on how to do that. What I'm telling you is, if you increase your abilities, if you increase your skill sets, if you learn how to become more valuable, then not only will you make more money, but people will gladly pay you because you're bringing so much value to the organization, because you are giving so much value to these people's problems. And if you haven't learned to develop these skill sets, then you're going to stay stuck. Setting goals on raising your income, believe it or not, is a skill set that most of you are not doing right now. Like, I'm coming in, if I'm making $4,000 a month, I wouldn't set a goal to raise it to 10. If I'm making $10,000 a month, I wouldn't set a goal to raise it to 20. I remember I was stuck at like $24,000 a month, and it was literally driving me crazy. And the reason why I was stuck there is because I hadn't learned the skill sets to evolve from $24,000 a month. And the skill set that I needed to learn was, how do I get really talented people that have really big egos? How do I get them to decide what they want and to get them to work really well together with a whole bunch of other talented people that all have really big egos and make a ton of money? How can I get these people to work well together and not do it selfishly for individual purposes, but do it collectively for the purpose of the organization? I didn't know how to do it. And so I had to learn how to build those skill sets to get those type of people to work together. I remember when I was stuck at like $35,000 a month. And the skill set that I lacked, it wasn't that I couldn't make $50,000 a month. I just didn't know how to. And so I had to learn the skill set. And the skill set I had to learn was, how do I build systems into a business? I never really knew how. I'm better at it now. I'm still not that good at it. But I had to learn, how do I get better with this? Because individually, I'm really good at what it is that I do. But I'm trying to scale a business. And if I scale a business, I need better systems. I didn't know. And so I had to learn how to bring systems into the organization. And once I did that, we went to 30. And then I was capped out at 30 for a minute, and I wanted to go to 50. And then I had to learn a new skill set to go to 50. Then I wanted to go to 83,333. But I was stuck in between 50 and that number for a while. And then I had to learn a new skill set before I could get up to that. So you have to increase your income. But here's the caveat. As you increase your skills and your marketable value and you start making more, you have to keep your lifestyle the same. Do not buy stupid stuff. Do not buy things that you don't need. See, the challenge is, we buy a lot of stuff right now that we want, right? I want the shoes. I want the new car that I have to pay a car note on. I want the cosmetic surgery. I want the different substances. Like, I want the different, there's a lot of stuff right now that you are wasting money on because it's a want, not a need. Where that same money could be going to paying down debt, it could be going to investing. Okay? So we need to raise our income. And number 6 is, we need to start investing into the stock market. Now, here's the cool thing. It's like, you already at this point already have a couple pieces of real estate, right? You had the first piece, your foundational piece. You moved out of that piece. You kept that piece. Now you're in your second property, which is great. You've already been building up massive savings. You've already paid down all or most of your debt outside of your mortgages for the homes, right? You already have raised your income, and now we have enough excess there. Our income is up here. We're still living below our means, and now I can take this extra amount and I can put it into the stock market. Here's the amazing thing about the stock market. It is not, it doesn't care who you are, right? So like a lot of us right now in our 20s and our 30s, you're watching this and you're like, man, it's tough for me, right? Like I may not be able to find the job that I want. I may not be able to make the income that I want. I may not be able to move to the city that I want. You know, you might feel like you just had a little baby and maybe you're not making the same amount as somebody else. I don't know what it is, right? But we could have a lot of excuses because of some limitations that might actually be there or may not be there. But here's the great thing about the stock market. It doesn't care. It doesn't care if you're a woman. It doesn't care if you're a man. It doesn't care if you're white. It doesn't care if you're black. It doesn't care. It doesn't care if you're young. It doesn't care if you're old. It doesn't care. It is not, it has no dog in this fight. What it does care about is your ability to stay consistent, to have discipline, and start thinking like a wealthy person. Listen, poor people think like poor people. Middle class folks think like middle class folks. And wealthy people think like wealthy people. And because they think this way, they start developing habits that now are going to produce a predictable outcome. Poor people think poor thoughts that bring in poor habits, that bring a poor life. And then that perpetuates itself. Okay, that gets transferred. It gets transferred throughout the community and it gets transferred through bloodlines. Same thing with middle class. They think middle class, they develop middle class habits, and then that middle class mindset now gives them predictable results, which is middle class. Same thing with wealthy folks. Here's a great thing about the stock market, right? You take a little bit, even if it's $1,000 a month, which by this time you should have. Even if it's $1,000 a month, and you find a little low-cost index fund to just start investing in, don't even try to get super sexy, right? Don't be picking individual stocks, none of that stuff. Just find a little low-cost index fund, and if you start investing $1,000 a month, okay, into this thing, and if, let's just say you're 30, by the time you are 60, you're going to have about $2.5 million in the stock market. This is why your 20s and your 30s is so crucial, because you got the one great equalizer, which is investing. The one great equalizer, investing, literally clears up everything. It doesn't care who you are. What it does care about is what sort of habits do you have. And even if you're like, Jamil, $1,000 a month seems too hefty for me right now. Fine, $500 a month. If you do that over the next 30 years, then you'll have about $1.25 million. By the way, that's just in the stock market. You still got your foundational piece of real estate and you still got your second property. By this time, those are probably valued in the millions as well. So because you have now developed a new mindset, because you've gone through and you've made a decision, because you started paying yourself, you got a beautiful looking savings account, emergency fund that's going. And more importantly than that, you are demonstrating to yourself that you love yourself more than you love Visa, MasterCard, American Express. I would never give those people my money before I give me my money. It doesn't even make sense. Number 3 is you learn to pay off all this debt. This debt is crippling you. There's not too many things that's more important than getting rid of this debt. If you want to be financially free, if you want to just kind of skate by, if you want to struggle all the time, then keep all that debt there. But if you want to be financially free, then we need to get rid of it. Buy that first foundational piece of real estate and keep it. Do not sell it. And like I said, a duplex, a fourplex, a small apartment building. Number 5, learn how to make more money. Making money is not a problem. The problem is you don't know how to make more of it. And number 6, invest in the stock market. So there it is. Those are the 6 steps to take to become financially free in your 20s and your 30s. And if you're watching this, it's still appropriate for you if you're older than your 30s. These same steps will still work for you as well. Listen, please, if any of this has made an impact in you, go on and hit the thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, share this across with all those who you love and need this message. And until then, we'll see you on the next episode.